Hello, today is August 3rd, 2024, and I just have an update video. Um, the last time I made my update video was July 29th on Monday, right before the price tanked. And I hope that some of y'all saw my video and got out of the market because, whew, we have been rinsed this week. This week was rough. This week was real rough. I just want to go over a few things and some actual major adjustments that I've made after analyzing the everything a little bit more. So, without further ado, all right. One big change that I had made is to the downward sloping channel that we had last time. Hold on 1 second. Okay. So anyways, the downward sloping channel looked more like last cycle's, like this, with two lines going down to the right, pretty in parallel with each other. I adjusted it after analyzing a little bit more. I wanted it to look more like a downward sloping channel, and it just wasn't. I noticed that there's some support here I didn't notice before. So I am changing this structure to a descending broadening wedge, which is still bullish. This is still a bullish pattern, macro time frame. Short-term time frame, not so much. Another thing is I cleaned up the lines so there's not double lines up top and double lines on the bottom. And I made an extra vertical line here. This is the United States presidential election, November 5th, 2025. The orange line, for those that weren't in my, didn't see my last video, it is the Bitcoin halving. And then one thing that I didn't mention at all, and I should have last week, were the pink boxes that I had made kind of throughout this region. It wasn't consistent, but I was highlighting CME gaps that had gotten filled prior, and a CME gap that was coming up that hadn't yet been filled, that we ended up getting half filled throughout this 1 week in and of itself. Sometimes these gaps take a month to play out. They could take 2 months to play out. They could take a week to play out. Usually there's a very high probability that these gaps that are created over the weekend eventually get closed. The market makers love to bring the price back down to cover that entire gap zone. So it looks like that's what's happening. But at the same time, it does also look like we are in a descending broadening wedge. I also made some adjustments to the bottom baseline. I looked at that a little closer. And then I also made some other lines that I wanted to mention as well, striking through the wedge here. So I want to talk about that now. So I found that you can trace back lines from the previous cycle high, and you can have bounces that will continue into the next cycle. You see that? So you got some resistance here, flips into support, and then actually it just tanks through here. So resistance again. I wanted to mention that these lines, these vertical lines that go up and to the right, are not strong resistance or support lines, but I did want to highlight those just in case anybody wanted to use those in our current cycle as potential bounce zones. So for instance, if you would have seen this one right here coming across most recently until Trump got shot, we bounced here and we bounced here again, and then we launched. So this, if we go touch this line again, I anticipate we go through it. That's how weak these lines are. We usually at least hit it once as resistance, and then we will fall through the second time. There's another zone here, right in here, and there's another zone here that pretty much lines up with the baseline at the end, so which honestly isn't that important, so I'm going to remove it, make the chart look a little bit cleaner. So in case you wanted to capitalize on these potential bounces from these potential support and resistance lines, you could. If we go through this next, if we go and drop through this support line, we most likely will come to this, bounce through here, and it will act as resistance. So it's kind of nice to see these lines drawn out. They do historically provide some significance, so I just wanted to mention that. Like I said, I readjusted the baseline. Let me zoom in on that. So zooming in, I made this really thick so it really stands out, but just from this zone, you can't, just from one point of contact, you can't form an idea of where the baseline is. We had to wait for at least a second point of contact. It barely skimmed it right there, and then you'll notice if I zoom in really close that we sent little wicks and touched it here. We touched it here, 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 here as well. On September 11th, we fell through and quickly got back up through it, indicating that that's not where it wanted to be. So I'm pretty sure that this is where the support line was. Previously, I drug this line below these two candles, which drug the end of this out for another 2 months. So now, instead of the end of this descending broadening wedge ending in March, it looks like it will end sometime in January. It says January 19th is this very far corner right here. However, I do not plan on waiting for it for January before I get back in. I am currently out, actually. I got out on Monday before everything started to tank. Just knowing that what we had talked about the CME, the weekend chart pattern, not the CME, but the weekend chart pattern that we had created over the weekend, and this pink box zone, CME gap right here, those two things combined made me just exit. I just got out. Yeah, so we'll currently see how this plays out. What I do plan on doing is, so Bitcoin historically sees pretty negative August and September months, just really slow in the summertime, and we start to pick back up mid-October and into November. So even though the end of this channel ends in January, I'm planning on an earlier rise, especially if Trump gets elected. Then I do not see us hitting this bottom channel in this area. We probably bounce and then we go sideways and then hit it somewhere along this line. So this could potentially be the lowest point we get if we do get to this point. So this is my plan. If Trump wins, like I said, I do see us bouncing. We'll probably hit this, we'll probably have broken through this upward sloping line by then, and it will act as resistance. So we'll probably see a little bit of a bounce there before heading back down. But I do think it would go sideways. If Kamala wins, or whoever the Democratic candidate is at the time, ends up winning, and say we do the opposite and we drop. Well, from this point to baseline is a 12% move, 14% move there, 8% move here. Risk to reward, it's probably better to get in here because the chances of a Trump victory are greater, and that could potentially be the bottom, the lowest point within this channel that we see. Versus if he loses, then okay, you lose what, another 12%. In Bitcoin, I mean, that's not very substantial, maybe 9%. In altcoins, everything by that point will be at its lowest across the board, so altcoins won't probably theoretically be dropping very much lower. So I think risk to reward, it's probably better. Also knowing that Bitcoin historically starts to pick up in October anyways, like mid-October. So let's look at the previous cycle. This is what happened. This was the previous presidential election. We were hugging this bottom baseline here, and then around October 20th, we started to jump off of that line, and we had a presidential election on November 4th is what that says. Coming back here, you kind of see the same concept. So October 20th, wow, October 21st, 22nd, we start to really pick up, and wow, almost to the day. And we start to pick up, and the elections for this year were November 9th, 2016. So I'm anticipating it's starting to pick up October 15th. So wherever we're at, I'm probably just gonna get in on October 15th. I might play another bounce or so in here if I'm feeling risky, but yeah, I honestly, guys, I think I'm not thinking that we see another pump up to this upward down sloping channel line for, I don't know, probably it's going to be a while. If we do see it, maybe it pops up after the election and we hit it, and then we're back down again. I mean, we did do that in this downward sloping channel last time. See, we were hugging the bottom for a while, and then we just jumped, hit the top, and then came back down right in that pocket. We could do that again with this presidential election. We'll see, but you could potentially capitalize on that move by getting in mid-October. That is my plan. That is what's happening. And I just want to update everybody with that video. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, I also wanted to mention last weekend activity. We ended up coloring that line black. So you know, this blue line indicates all retail activity over the weekend, and then starting Sunday at 2100 Eastern Standard Time until Monday morning at 9 a.m., we create almost like a pointer line indicating which direction we're going to go for the week ahead. That Sunday at 2100 until Monday at 9 a.m. Is the time that China and the UK have both opened, and it seems to be a pretty good indicator as to which direction we're going to go for the week. However, when it hits an upward channel, whenever it's hit the upper band of the downward sloping channel, it has reversed. So even though it says up, it's indicating a reversal whenever it touches that. So it went down, and it went down a lot. So if y'all got out, I did. That was a 13.5% move so far. We haven't yet filled this gap. This gap has another, from here, has another 5% to go before we could potentially see any sort of recovery in the short term. And then I see us just continuing further down. Anyways, that is the scoop. I hope y'all found this informative. Y'all have a great week.